Good afternoon, everybody. Very happy to be with you today. Thank you very much for joining. I think many of you are joining from the Netherlands. If you're joining from elsewhere, maybe good morning to you. My name is Jan-Willem van Bokhoven, Director of the Holland House, Colombia. This webinar has been organized by the Netherlands Enterprise Agency, RVO, the Embassy of the Kingdom of the Netherlands in Colombia, and the Holland House Colombia with the help of Witteveen Bos. I welcome you to this webinar on urban mobility in Colombia. I think there's a lot of good reasons for this webinar. We have a big group of companies from the Netherlands joining, of experts from the Netherlands joining. And I think to give you a bit of context to this webinar, in the midst of COVID-19 precautions that have curtailed movement around the world, Colombia has released a new national roadmap for urban and regional mobility. It sends a powerful policy message that cities are saved by providing adequate access to people and goods, not just by moving around cars. The policy has been several years in the making, but the COVID-19 crisis has made its release timelier. Public transit networks are facing unprecedented fiscal challenges, but they have also proven to be critical lifelines during the pandemic. And many cities are advancing bicycle and pedestrian infrastructure to provide healthy mobility alternatives and reduce crowding on buses and trains. To achieve more resilient, more sustainable cities after the crisis, good quality public transport and walking and cycling networks need to be high priorities. Colombia's national policy is an evolution of the central government's focus on mobility, from almost zero involvement 30 years ago to gradually funding large public transit projects to today's integrated vision that includes walking, cycling, and freight. That's a bit of context for today's webinar. We have a very ambitious agenda today. The main reason for this webinar is that using this momentum of the policy that has been released this year, but also the work the embassy in the person of Natalia Piñeros and the Holland House Colombia in the person of Lina Maria Zafra have done this year to map this policy, to make an analysis and to translate that into the opportunities we see for Dutch companies. I know today we have many familiar faces joining this webinar, also some new persons, some new companies. Welcome, very happy that you have joined today. And our goal for today is to tell you a bit about the study, because we have done an extensive study this year about the study, complemented by a practical speaker that's going to talk from his experience, and also combining with a presentation of RVO on the instruments that could be available for you to become active here. Without any further ado, at this moment, I would like to give the floor to Natalia Piñeros and to Lina Maria Zafra. Natalia working for the embassy, I think known to many of you, the mobility expert with her background, her academical background, but also since 2016, she has been leading all efforts at the embassy in the mobility field. Lina Maria Zafra is one of the persons in my team that has also been very much involved in those activities. They are going to present you first a study, and then we will have several more presentations. At the end, we will have a short Q&A, probably too short because we want to do this webinar within the hour, but we will probably organize a next session in which we will actually have a lot more discussion and dialogue with all the participants today. Welcome again. Thank you very much. Gracias, Natalia, Lina, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Jan. Good morning, everyone. Can you hear me well?
Yes.
Yes?
Perfectly.
Okay. Thank you, Jan-Willem, for your words. And thank you, everyone, for attending this session. We are very excited to share this study that we did together with Lina. So, Linita, I give you the word to start with the context, and then I will present some gaps that we think can be turned into business opportunities for Dutch businesses that are interested to do business in Colombia. So, Lina, thank you.
Okay, perfect. Thank you. Well, first of all, thank you so much for being here today with us. My name is Lina Maria, and I am a consultant from Holland House, Colombia, and we made this study together with the Embassy of the Netherlands here in Colombia, mainly to find out the opportunities for Dutch companies here in this country. Now, as Natalia already said, I am going to start with a brief context, and after that, Natalia will give you some information about the main challenges and the main opportunities that for Dutch companies here in Colombia. Okay, so the first graphic that you see in this slide, it's about the percentage of the transportation modalities here in Colombia for 2018. So you can see that maritime transport have the 15%, the air transport have the 14%, and the road transport have the 71%, both for passengers and for cargo. Also, at the right side, you could see the numbers for mobilization for cargo and passengers in Colombia for 2018. So for this specific study, we selected 6 cities, mainly because they were those that we identified with the most potential and opportunities in this sector. These cities are leads in mobility innovation and have clear goals for the next few years in sustainable mobility. So the 6 cities are Bogota, Medellin, Pasto, Pereira, Barranquilla, and Bucaramanga. Here we want to show you some overview about the cities that we selected. So I am going to say some characteristics of each city. Bogota counts now with 1,775 square kilometers, has a population of around 7,800,000. It has 550 kilometers of bike paths and 80 kilometers of temporary paths on weekends, and it has a cable car with a length of 3.3 kilometers. Medellin counts with 382 square meters, has a population of around 2,500,000, and it has 29 kilometers of bike paths. Also, Medellin has a metro system with 28.8 kilometers and a cable car with 14 kilometers. Pasto counts with 1,181 square meters, has a population of around 460,000, and it has 7 kilometers of bike paths. Pereira counts with 700 square kilometers. It has a population of around 591,000 and 17 kilometers of bike paths. Barranquilla counts with 154 square kilometers, has a population of around 1,300,000, and it has 14.4 kilometers of bike paths. And finally, Bucaramanga counts with 162 square kilometers, has a population of around 581,000, and it has 2.6 kilometers of bike paths. So in this slide, you could see how people move here in Colombia according to 2017 statistics. The most used one here in Colombia is the public transport with 58%, and the less used one is the bicycle and walking. Now for the cities that we selected, we could see that in Bogota, the most used public transport and the most used one is the public transport and the less used one is the bicycle, and the same for Medellin. For Pasto, the most used one is walking and the less used one is the taxi. But for Pereira, Barranquilla, and Bucaramanga, again, the most used one is the public transport and the less used one is the bicycle. So in the next 2 slides, we can find the development plans of each cities. This city's development plans contains the goals and the objectives of the government to apply in this sector. So we managed to identify the most important ones in terms of mobility. So for reasons of time, I will only say the most important ones. And anyway, you can download these plans for the mayor's webpage in Spanish. So for Bogota, start the construction of 1 cable car. For Medellin, start an infrastructure program for sustainable mobility. For Pasto, modernization of road network. For Pereira, more bicycles, better mobility. For Barranquilla, the development of sustainable transport infrastructure and new alternatives. And for Bucaramanga, evolve and new strategies for bicycles. Okay, now regarding to urban logistics, you can notice that in Colombia, the urban logistics has more presence than the rural logistics with 71% compared to 29%. The sector that retains the urban logistics the most is the agricultural one, and the one that the least is the mining. Now in the graph, we can see that the projection to 2035 is that the urban logistics generates the highest amount of CO2, followed by the interurban logistics. So it is estimated that Colombia loses about 2% of the gross domestic products per year due to the effect of the congestion in the cities. This is because at the time of entering in the city, cargo vehicles see their average speed reduced from 50 kilometers per hour to 10 kilometers per hour because of the congestion, which affects, of course, the productivity of the transport mode. Okay, now here in the next two slides, we wanted to show you the stakeholders that we have here in Colombia. We have this one for the national public sector, of course, the Ministry of Transport, the National Planning Department, the National Infrastructure Agency, among others. And in the private sector, we have the companies for public transport, we have the chambers of commerce, we have the National Association of Entrepreneurs in Colombia, among others. Okay, now some interesting information about bicycle mobility and e-mobility here in Colombia. In the top 10 bicycle-friendly cities in Latin America, Colombia is the only country with 3 cities in the ranking, Medellin, Cali, and Bogota. This is mainly because Bogota is the city in Latin America with the largest number of kilometers of bike paths. And regarding to e-mobility, with the number of registered electric vehicles in 2019, Colombia takes the lead with 923 registered one. This mainly because here in Colombia, we have a VAT incentive of 5% to electric and hybrid vehicles, including motorcycle and bicycles. Now, the impact of COVID-19 on the urban mobility, we see this year that 75% decrease in the demand of public transport. This is mainly because currently we are using only the 50% of the public transport because of the protocols. Before the COVID-19, we had more than 5 million passengers per day in these 7 public transport, in the 6 public transport in the cities that we selected. And during COVID-19, because of the protocols, we have 800,000 passengers per day. So the good news here is that we received an increase of the import of bicycles. The imports from January to March in 2019 were 35,210 units. And the same period in 2020, from January to March, we received 44,519. That means a 45% increase in the imports of bicycles. And finally, here in Colombia, with all the consequences that were brought by the COVID-19, the Colombian government produced a new document called Nuevo Compromiso por Colombia, New Commitment for Colombia, which details how we are going to overcome this crisis that we have this year. So for this sector, the most regarding topic is clean growth, and the plan is to invest 2.2 billion Colombian pesos to stimulate and present a new normative law to reactivate the creative industry sector. So with this context, I would like to give the floor to Natalia so we can see more of the main challenges here in Colombia and the main opportunities for Dutch companies.
Thank you, Linia, for your presentation. We wanted to share just like a brief. We are going to share the whole report so you can get more information in detail. So I'm not going to take much time in this, just to mention what kind of business opportunities we found after we did the research. Could you please say, thank you. Okay, so we did a SWOT analysis. I'm not going to stop again here. Very, very briefly, you will have the opportunity to read it, but some of the strengths that we found is that there are kind of an active participation now. There are more interest of different actors to commit for more sustainable transport solutions here in Colombia due to the many challenges that we have in the urban context. Continue, Linita. So basically, yeah, we have challenges as many other countries, and now in these COVID times, we are facing a lot of new things happening. So the main challenges are timing procedures, you know, bureaucracy, things take time here, you have to know the culture, you have to get time to build that up a relationship. The prices in new technologies and sustainable transport are the other challenges, the lack of technical capacity. So when you see this graph, you see that, of course, are challenges, but also this can be turned into opportunities. Next, Linita. We have done a lot together in the past 5 years. The recent event that we had was the participation of the Netherlands as a guest country of honor in Visigo. That was in November 2018, together with the mission of Prime Minister Rutte. But before that, we have done different events, presentations, missions, incoming, outgoing missions in different aspects of bicycle mobility, sustainable mobility, and so on. Of course, in Colombia, one of the ways that you can find opportunities for doing business is through tenders and public-private partnerships. Here in this slide, we just mentioned that institutions that work and publish tenders now and then. This is it's not an easy process. That's why we can offer you support together with Holland House to understand a little bit how it works. And then just to mention this, you can get more information later on. So one of the first, the first opportunity that we have found during the study is how the Dutch business can work here for infrastructure planning, not just talking about bicycle mobility, but also talking about e-mobility and logistics of electric light vehicles or cargo bikes. We see that all the urban contexts and mainly the cities that we studied have plans, but when it comes to make it real, they have a lot of trouble in the planning way, because sometimes the actors are completely separated, and this is the link we want to find. So one of the opportunities is the infrastructure planning and create local capacity, and this is something that the Dutch could really do here, just to push a little bit this working together concept in Colombia. Siguiente. The second opportunity we found is the training on clean technologies for entrepreneurs and youth. Of course, Colombia has a very good opportunity for entrepreneurs. Many companies and the chambers of commerce or other type of institutions are promoting the creation of new businesses. And now you can see that many entrepreneurs are linking the climate change goals and the situation that we are living now for creating small businesses related to technology and innovation. So that's something we can also explore together with the Dutch assistance or expertise. Siguiente. Oh, well, the third opportunity is the transfer technology for bicycle assembly. As you can see, worldwide, we have had a shortage of bicycle production because of the boom of the bicycle usage during the COVID times. So Colombia has a very good potential to become one of the hubs for Latin America because of the tradition we have, the history we have with the bicycle, and the knowledge that we have. The only thing we need is to try to put all the puzzle together to get this knowledge transfer and to get the industry to work towards the production, the local production of bicycles that can be exported to other countries in Latin America. Continúa, Lenita. And logistics is another topic that we covered during our study. Our focus was more in the solutions that electric light vehicles or cargo bikes can provide for logistics problems. We didn't cover the big panorama, but of course, opportunities are there. How we could do that? Through partnerships, through participation in national programs. The many mayors and governors are putting in their development plans very specific goals towards logistics. So we found that this is an opportunity, is something very, very new that is starting in Colombia. Continuing. In traffic management, well, urban contexts are very crazy places in which we really need the expertise and the advice from the Dutch experience and technical tools that could help to manage traffic in different urban contexts. There are always opportunities to do partnerships, and that would be the best way to do it in order to implement tailor-made solution for the cities that we studied. And well, of course, every city has their own urban plan. We cannot change the whole thing, but we could advise cities to improve or to change some things to become more efficient in terms of planning in the long term and not in the short term. Of course, now with the COVID situation, new strategies are sought to promote sustainable modes of transport, and the bicycle is not an exception, is now becoming much more important in every single urban plan of every single mayor. Continue. Yeah, of course, doing business in Colombia, as in any other country, has its tricks and tips. We have just mentioned some of the events or the things that an entrepreneur that would like to do business in Colombia could take into consideration. Always the support from Holland House and from us is there. But yeah, I'm not going to stop here because we don't have so much time, but we are going to share this in the report. So of course, part of the tips is to become familiar with the culture. You need time to build relationships. You need time to understand what is the culture here. And of course, one of the things is the language. It's important to bear in mind that people in Colombia speak Spanish and little English. So to have a partner that speaks the language is also very strategic. Continuing. And of course, there are some events that will take place the next year. One of the events is the BCGO or the Latin Mobility Congress, the international, wait, I cannot see the whole slide here, meeting of electric mobility, and so some other events that of course we see opportunities, but they will be for sure virtual because of the situation. Continue, Linita. And as I mentioned, BCGO Colombia will take place in March. It will be the fair that we participated 2 years ago. And of course, it's always a place in which companies can join together to show their products and their innovations in a very important international event. Yeah, I think I talked very fast, but I think we are kind of running out of time. So thank you so much. We are here to listen for your questions, but I give the word to Martijn. Thank you.
Thank you, Natalia. Thank you, Lina. Great presentation. I think for the persons that have joined today, and also to give you a bit of work while we listen to Martijn as well, I think the main aim of the study has been to give you an update. I know many of you are active in Colombia or willing to become active in Colombia. We wanted to give you an update because this has been a special year, but it has been a year with a lot of new developments in mobility in Colombia, the national policy, but also the effects of the pandemic. So a lot of things happening, and we think also new opportunities. Some of the opportunities you saw were already there, but have been strengthened. And I think the same goes for our network. Natalia, Lina, and the whole teams, they have done the study. They have interviewed a lot of people. They have gotten into contact with new local governments. So that gives us a new network besides the already existing one. So that's what we wanted to present you. Also the opportunities besides the update, because we would really like to know from you, if you look at these opportunities, which opportunity could be interesting for your company. There were some logos there of companies we know could be interested, but of course they are not all there. Maybe your logo was not there. That was not to offend you. That was most of all to invite you to tell us which of the opportunities you would like to work on, because that would be the next step after this presentation. Today we want to tell you about the study, about the developments, and tell you we have been very active because we think this is a great sector which will be in our agendas for many more years, and many more Dutch companies will become successful. And talking about that, Martijn, thank you very much for joining today. I think you're going to tell us more. Martijn is urban mobility expert of Witteveen Bos. I think many of you know or might know Martijn. Martijn has been active for more than 20 years in mobility projects around the world. And in 2018 and 2019, you have also been active in Colombia. And that makes you, for me, an expert of how a lot of efforts pay off and actually make it possible to be involved in projects in Colombia. You're going to tell us more about that, Martijn. Thank you very much.
Thank you. I will share the screen, I hope. Zoom, yes. Am I sharing already? I think so.
Yes, we can see your presentation. I will mute, Martijn. The floor is yours.
Yes, okay. I'll try to start the slideshow now. Yes. Yeah, well, thanks Jan-Willem and Natalia for inviting me to share a little bit of our experience with working in Colombia. And of course, it's always nice if you start sharing something, then it looks like this is, a project, like we do many projects in the Netherlands. But I'd say it's much more of like a result of a long period of sometimes hard work, which finally resulted into a project. Yeah, I'm working for Witteveen Bos. We are a worldwide consultancy company, as many of you know. I'm working as a team leader for sustainable mobility and also coordinating our export in built environment. So I'm also looking at, for instance, energy transition and carbon neutral design, for instance. Together with my colleague Paul Ravenstein, he is our general manager of our soon to be opened office in Panama. Yeah, we are looking at opportunities in Latin America. And well, I think COVID, of course, is a big tragedy, and also for us as company, it meant we had to postpone the opening of our office in Panama, which was actually scheduled for January this year. And we're now going to open in January 2021. Despite of how COVID is treating us, we decided we want to push forward because there's a lot of work to do, even in these times. Yeah, if you look at our business, I won't go too much into detail, but you can see here we have several business lines we are working in. Well, of course, also within built environment, cycling, master planning, and we've done several projects also related to port development, for instance, in Colombia and in the region. Now, looking at our story, like I said, doing a project is a result of a long process. And I think for more than, some 5 years ago, maybe even a bit longer, several colleagues decided that they wanted to form like a Latin America group of enthusiasts that wanted to do projects in Latin America, and started exploring what are the opportunities there. And basically that means networking, contacting the right people like the Dutch Embassy. And we also joined the Holland House some years ago. Also to have like a, let's say, temporary base in a way in Colombia. And from there work together with Jan-Willem's team in exploring market opportunities and trying to get in touch with the right partners. And well, I said, well, sometimes we join trade missions. We don't join them all. Now they are virtually, so that might be easier. But when it was still flying in, flying out, we were quite selective in whether we really needed to join, because you can go on a trade mission at that time almost every week. And yeah, that's not necessary to do the business. It's good to be there once or twice, but then from there you need to start working on the network itself. Now, looking at our story, I'd say, yeah, basically in our international business, we often use like three, let's say main ideas or main techniques, which is like following our clients. So we follow large Dutch or international clients we already have within the company, and then try to help them in another part of the world. That's, for instance, in the port business, quite common to do for us. Or exploiting the niche experience we have, and that's what, in this case, cycling. The Dutch are world famous for designing proper cycling infrastructure. So for us, it's usually easy, or a topic which can easily connect our Dutch brand with all around the world. And of course, only the niche is not enough. It's also good to know where the money actually is. And our strategy is usually to try to map how EV-funded projects are. I know, for instance, in Natalia's presentation, there was a lot also about, let's say, local funds and local tenders. We sometimes find that quite difficult to participate. Whereas in the EV-funded projects, we have a better understanding and they are more regional oriented. So, for instance, the IDB, we are also doing a small project for them in Peru at the moment. And yeah, that's because we know them quite well. And then it's easier because they have multi-countries, which they serve. Now, for me, Colombia personally, that was always on my wish list to do a project once. And that had a lot to do with the Ciclovia, which is there every Sunday. An example of a car-free or car light, or well, some parts of the city are closed to stimulate cycling. And as Dutchman, I've heard of that was common in the 70s. Well, in the Netherlands, well, I was born in the 70s, so I had no clue how that was like. So I finally got the opportunity to join such an event. And the Bogota one is world famous. It's actually 128 kilometers every Sunday already since the 70s. Now, my first time in Colombia, it was election time, and they decided to cancel the event on the Sunday because it was election day. So I had bad luck, but the second time I was able to join. You can see here on the map that it's actually quite a large area, which is partially closed, and hundreds and hundreds of thousands of people cycle there. It's great to be there. Well, project. Of course, that's the result of a long lead time, and the project we worked on was a feasibility study for a new cycle route in Bogota, in central Bogota. And yeah, I think what's interesting about this project was because Bogota already has a lot of cycle tracks, but this one, they also C40 cities and GIS from Germany, they wanted to set an example of how, let's say, more modern or more innovative cycle infrastructure could look like, in a way like the cycle highways we have in the Netherlands. And well, that opened an opportunity for a Dutch company to actually step in and bring in our knowledge and share the experience. So you see a couple of pictures here of we worked a lot with cross-section profiles, did a lot of site visits, and design review. Now the study area, this is, it's from running from north to south. So this picture, you have to turn clockwise. The north is currently at the left side of the picture. So it's like a 25-kilometer study area. And yeah, that was quite long. Usually the projects I do in cities are of, let's say, 5 to maybe 10 kilometers max. So it was quite also for me, it was quite a challenge to work on such a project. Well, this is one of the visuals we prepared together with our Colombian landscape team to show how, let's say, a kind of Colombian style cycle highway or fietsstraat could look like. Also implementing green verges in public space. Of course, this was more to trigger a discussion and to start searching for arguments why this is a good idea or not a good idea, and it's not built in reality yet. But well, with some tweaks, you can imagine this can be done in a city and in a street. Now, what I personally liked a lot about working in Colombia, as you can see on this picture. For the engineers or designers amongst you, this picture shows that you are in a country where actually the road designers understand how to work with cycling. Because this picture shows that there is a cycle track which starts at this yellow car, and in front of before the junction, actually the car traffic is already pushed more to the center of the road to make sure that when the cycle track starts, there's no car suddenly driving in there. So this guides, in a way, cars and tries to create a safe place for cycling. Well, I've worked a lot all over the world, and I think it was the first time I noticed that such a design actually existed outside the Netherlands and Denmark. So for me, that was like, hey, it's interesting. We can learn a lot here as well as coming from the Netherlands. Yeah, and I think it was said already quite a lot. Working with a local team, very important. Well, this is the team, a part of the team I worked with, the design team from Sigma, a local company. And I think interesting to tell about this is that, well, we've heard of this opportunity, and well, because we already knew several local companies active in urban infrastructure, it was like, well, let's do a phone call and see who has time and who is interested in joining forces with us. And sooner or later, we actually decided that maybe we should be like the sub-consultant and they should be in the lead. And that had a lot to do not only with the fact that it's in Spanish, and I'm not really a Spanish speaker, but it also had a lot to do with, well, being first time in a new country. Maybe it's good to have to work with a local team and have a good, let's say, responsibility within the team, and to have them in the lead for all the discussions with the ministry and municipality. Now, if you look at the lessons learned, well, I already touched Spanish. I came there, well, with speaking only a few words Spanish and understanding a little bit more than speaking, in a country where I'd say, well, only a few people also in the industry speak English. So so this has resulted in our team that next time I will add a couple of my Spanish-speaking colleagues when we go again. The local team and partner is really essential. It has been proven to be essential, and that had a lot to do with long meetings and long emotional discussions about several topics. I think the lesson I learned a lot is that maybe in the Netherlands we are quite practical. That if we end up in a discussion about a certain design, we try to write down, okay, what are the topics we are discussing? We can't decide on this today. Let's turn this into an action, a follow-up action, and we come back next week or 2 weeks later to discuss the results. Well, in our project, it was, let's discuss till one of us wins. And some discussions, for instance, about the cycle street could easily take 2 or 3 hours. And then, well, the one who had the longest breath actually won, and that was put into design. And then, well, I guess also it has to do with like the gated approach we are commonly using in the Netherlands, that we say, well, we've done a conceptual design, this is what we're going to further detailize, and we're not going to change too much. Well, I think the whole, let's say, work process also meant that such an approach is not really working. You need to be flexible and adaptable to, well, also some political input within the project. So you see, the scope was constantly moving, changing a little bit, and we had to adapt, redesign, come up with other arguments. It was very interesting, but for budgeting purposes, it's not like we are used to how we work in the Netherlands. And what a lesson I learned as well is that you can really see Colombia as a guide for Latin America for bicycle infrastructure. I'm pretty sure that, well, we won a project and did a project in Colombia that actually helped us to win another one in Peru. Just because you are from the Netherlands and you've worked in the city, which is, well, the most famous cycling city of Latin America. Well, then tips and tricks. I always find that a bit difficult to say, to be honest. I think I touched it several times. You need to build and use the network. And, well, find a very good local partner. And also what I learned is that it has to do with the working culture, that the mobility experts are really well trained. Also from the Bogota municipality, many traveled to several countries too, and well, got all kind of trainings by Jan Geel or from Denmark, but also worked with the Dutch Cycling Embassy, for instance. And so it was not that I arrived in a location where I need to be like, well, explaining how cycling worked. And that was really interesting to work in such a team. And also to learn from their debating skills. Because that's definitely what I saw, that we can learn a lot from debating and debating on arguments why a design is a good idea or not so good idea. And lastly, for myself, I think, well, I considered Colombia also as a place to learn new skills. I knew about center bike lanes, having bike lanes in the middle of the road, which we don't have in Europe, except from Spain. So I was there like, oh, I really want to learn how this works. And I spent a lot of evenings observing junctions, etc., to see whether it's safe or unsafe and how traffic responds to cyclists. And I actually shared that information or that knowledge at the Velocity conference in 2019 in Dublin, which then helped me to get in contact with, amongst other city in Australia, who also wanted to implement this. Well, then to end my part with a nice picture, also from the trade mission slash Beachy Go event in 2018, where we went cycling with a large Dutch team. Yeah, I'm still looking back that this was a great event, and it definitely brought us into contact with a lot of interesting people. And I saw on today's list of participants that, well, I'd say not half of what you see here on the picture, of who you see on the picture, is present, but at least a third is present. So we've really built, a relation there together. So I hope to see more of you in Colombia. That was it for my part.
Thank you, Martijn. I think the last photo for all of us brings back great memories.
Yes.
And your presentation, I think, had a lot of updates as well, but also a lot of tips and tricks that probably you were not able to share 2 years ago. So thank you very much for that. We're going to do a quick Q&A at the end, but I really like listening to you, and thank you very much for being willing to share your experiences, and hope to take that picture with part of the group joining today again very soon. We're going to continue quickly with Nico Smit. Nico Smit, Business Development Manager at RVO. And as I would explain it, the person connecting Dutch companies with interest in Colombia, with the embassy, with the opportunities in Colombia. Nico, you've been active with Latin America for a very long time. This is one of our most important sectors in Colombia, in which we would really like more Dutch participation. How can RVO help? That's the, I think, the central question to you.
Well, thank you for the introduction, Jan Willem, and I'll share my screen quickly. Let me see. Today I'll be, is it sharing? I guess so.
It is, Nico. We can see.
Perfect. Yeah, so today I want to tell a bit more about the Netherlands Enterprise Agency, where, let me see, it's not switching to the next slide. Yeah, where, as you mentioned, I work as a business development for South America. And I wanted to first provide a short update on the impact that Corona had on our work, and then touch upon the relevant instruments, subsidies, and programs. So that might be the way for those that are listening for us to be able to help you start doing business in Colombia. So in general, about RVO, for those who don't know, the Netherlands Enterprise Agency, its aim is to improve the opportunities for entrepreneurs and strengthen their position and help them realize their international ambition. And we do that through funding, providing or putting at disposal our local network, sharing on know-how on the local markets, and knowledge on how to comply with local laws and regulations. And RVO is part of the Ministry of Economic Affairs, but we also implement activities for other ministries, like the Ministry of Foreign Affairs and the Ministry of Agriculture. And we also implement programs for the European Union and regional governments. So as just like many companies, also RVO was affected by Corona. We used to organize a lot of physical events, seminars, trade missions. We would join trade shows, all physical. So when the lockdown started, we had to rethink our way of working. And we started off by creating frequently asked question web pages per country or region, because there were a lot of companies and entrepreneurs that had questions about the current state of affairs in the markets that they were doing business with regard to Corona. And then we started to switch and put a stronger emphasis on conducting market studies and mapping opportunities. And after that, we started boosting our digital services. So whereas before we would do all kinds of live events, physical events, we now provide a lot of webinars. We do digital trade missions and participate in trade fairs in an online way. And I expect that at least till the end of Q1 of 2021 will be 100% digital, and I think the impact of Corona will have a lasting impact, and will continue to offer our digital services next to the physical events and missions once those are possible again. We also decided to extend the subsidies for those projects that were affected by Corona. So if they were delayed, the subsidy continues. And also we developed a few instruments that can boost the international business again after the lockdown. So as of March, we only participated in trade shows in a digital way, and there will be no physical trade fair participation until the end of Q1 in 2021. But hopefully later in the year there will be hybrid events that we can join, or perhaps fully physical events. And the square meters that we already committed to for this year, for those trade shows that got postponed, we continue to commit to those square meters. So the pavilion still will be there once the edition will be done. Also, the missions in the coming period will be digital, and until the end of 2021, we don't expect any big delegations, and the missions will be in smaller form if they will be physical again. So let me now go shortly into the RVO instruments and programs and subsidies that are available and relevant for those participating today. I'm starting with the business partner scan, which is one of the most popular instruments we have at RVO. And the business partner scan is a list of potential business partners that we can provide. This can be clients or agents or distributors or production partners. And we compose these lists in close collaboration with the networks of embassies, consulates, and Netherlands business support offices abroad. And we can provide this list either with or without a personal introduction. For those companies that start off in their adventure of international business, we have a program called Starters in International Business, where we provide various vouchers or kind of discounts for different topics. So you can get vouchers in case you need individual guidance from a consultant on how to create a strategic action plan or how to enter a certain market. But we also have vouchers for those companies that join a trade mission or join the pavilion at a trade show for the first time. And finally, we have a voucher in case you need advice on fiscal, legal aspects of doing business abroad. So what's new as of the Corona crisis is the Kickstart Voucher. It differs from the vouchers that I mentioned before in the fact that it's meant for Dutch businesses that are already doing business abroad. And they can get up to €2,500 or 80% of the cost covered for the consultant or advisor that helps them with renewing their marketing plan, or developing a new business model, or in case your supply chain was affected by COVID or by the crisis that occurred due to COVID, we can help you, or you can hire a consultant to help you develop an alternative supply chain. The DHI subsidy scheme is a very popular subsidy scheme that we offer, whereby the D stands for demonstration project. We can provide up to €200,000 or 50% of the cost for you to demonstrate that your technology or product or service is effective and cost efficient in a context. The H stands for haalbaarheidsstudie or feasibility study. And for a feasibility study, we can provide €100,000 or 50% of the cost so that you can demonstrate that your product or service is technically and financially feasible to the potential foreign customer. The I stands for investment preparation studies. And for those studies, we have a subsidy up to 100,000 or 50% of the costs. We also have a fund for companies that are importing or exporting or investing abroad. And through this fund called Dutch Good Growth Fund, we provide loans, guarantees, and export financing. We can provide up to 50 million of financial support per project. And we have insurances that cover up to 30 million euro. And usually this fund is applied to by companies when commercial banks or commercial institutions cannot provide a loan or guarantee because the market companies are looking at is too risky or is considered to have a high risk profile for the bank. We also join strategic trade shows where we install the Netherlands pavilion, so pavilions branded in the Netherlands branding. This we do at strategic trade fairs, so the most important trade fairs, and at smaller or newer trade fairs, we have the opportunity or the option to have a network lounge, which is more a generic or open space. Where you can do matchmaking activities or networking activities, demonstrate products, and these network launches are also branded in the Netherlands branding. There's a possibility for sector and branch organizations to apply for a subsidy for such a launch, up to 35,000 euro or 60% of the costs. And the requirement then will be that there's 10 participating companies at least. So lastly, we have the Partners for International Business program. And this is a long-term public-private partnership whereby we can fund up to 350,000 euro for a period of 2 to 3 years. And the funding is meant to organize seminars, missions, knowledge to knowledge and government to government activities, but also marketing activities. And this public-private partnership is meant to position a cluster of companies and knowledge institutes in a foreign market. And it's not a subsidy, it's really a collaboration. So also from the cluster of companies, we will demand a contribution in the form of the payment of the cluster coordinator, but also a contribution to missions, seminars, and promotion materials. So it's a real partnership in this case. So that was it for my short presentation. If you would like to have more information, I would like to ask you to go to the RVO website, and we have a Colombia country page where you can find more information about the different opportunities, the various opportunities in Colombia. And there's also a subsidy scanner, let's say, where you can see which subsidies and programs apply to Colombia. And if you have any questions about doing business in Colombia or in Latin America, you can always reach out to me, shoot me an email or give me a call.
Thank you, Nico, for this very complete overview of what has changed, the instruments that are still there or have been differently oriented at this moment. I think from practice, also in this year, we have seen for example, the vouchers have been of great support for new Dutch companies that are willing to become active here. So I've seen in practice that although traveling and big events are also more difficult here, that's the way in which RVO has adapted certain instruments that also for this specific sector of which we are talking about today has been very instrumental. So I recommend all the companies joining today, the ones already are active, to look at the instruments that are for that specific group. For the new companies that want to take the step, they can be very useful. So thank you very much, Nico. We're going to continue with the last 15 minutes of this webinar to finish in time. And we're going to do some questions. I'm going to invite some persons to share us a bit more about questions or observations. But to start off, first, some very important messages. First, the study is going to be published on the website of RVO, but as a small prize for the people joining today, you will be the first ones to receive the study directly by email. That will be done these days. It's also going to be published, but we want to make this group the first ones to receive the study. We want you to take a look, and one of my proposals would be to, this is a webinar in which we share, but to plan at the beginning of January, when we're all starting the new year, to plan a meeting in which many of the persons I have seen have joined today, which I'm quite happy that have joined, that you please tell us a bit about what has happened for you, if you have new ideas or new leads in Colombia, or if there's a specific opportunity in the study that you would like to work on with other Dutch companies. So that would be my proposal, to organize a next session that would be much more dynamic. We will do it also by Zoom, but everybody with camera and microphone, and we just do a small debate internally to see how we can advance with the great study documents that's there today. I think first, some questions that arrived through the chat function, and there are several questions about the developments in urban cargo mobility. I think Natalia would be a great person, Natalia Piñeros would be a great person to answer that question. What have you seen this year, Natalia, in urban mobility, cargo, freight related, new developments that are interesting for Dutch companies?
Yeah, this is a very, very new topic, as I mentioned very briefly, with a lot of potential. Bogota is now doing a pilot project financed by the World Bank and another partner, and they want to start over with the cargo logistics by bike in some sectors of the city. The city of Medellin is kind of trying to lead as well projects in this area, and there is one or two companies that are really working on that, offering services to bigger companies to solve their logistics problems. So as I mentioned, this is something that is need to be done, is something very new, where a window of opportunity is there, and just that Bogota is taking the lead is something that is very important. So we are trying to organize a webinar together with the group of logistics of Bogota, of the Mobility Secretary, bringing Dutch experts that would like to share their experience in the Netherlands. And this webinar will be for free. So I know this is something that we have done before. So if there is any company interested to share their experience in cargo bikes or in urban logistics, feel free to contact me so we can make a bigger webinar with better impact. Yep.
Thank you, Natalia. I know Ron van Duin, for example, that joined us last year about this specific subject during the visit of Mayor Abu Taleb to Colombia. I think he is also here. He could probably in the next session share some of his experiences to actually come to concrete projects. Natalia, one more question to you, and then I'm going to invite someone to also share. How about our mayor in Bogota? Of course, we first had Peñalosa. Today we have another mayor. What is your opinion? Is mobility as important to her as for her predecessor? What is your personal opinion?
My personal opinion, Claudia Lopez is very in favor of bicycle, and if we talk about bicycles, but she's trying to do a lot in terms of safety and security, which I believe the Netherlands could also contribute a lot. How to do it? Maybe using innovations and technology to track, for instance, if I talk about bicycles, to track bicycles, to register bicycles, to provide other type of solutions for bicycle users. And yeah, she's in favor of promoting this type of light mobility and very sustainable mobility in the city. And other cities in the country are following the trend of using bikes for moving now, which is kind of the cleanest mode of transport after or during this pandemic that we are facing right now. Basically.
Thank you, Natalia. Well, at this point, I'm going to invite someone that actually right from the start of the webinar indicated that he is also willing to to tell us something, Ton Kooijmans. I actually met him yesterday. He wrote me yesterday. I think his interest in Colombia is brand new, or at least yesterday we got into contact. I'm very happy that you joined today, Ton, but also to show that besides the companies that are already active here or have been visiting and looking for concrete projects. Ton, welcome. I think Mike, I'd like to hear from you what your interest in Colombia is about.
Hello, good afternoon. You can see me, you can hear me?
We can hear you.
Okay, perfect. Jan Willem, I've been writing an email to you during this meeting already. So I'm a product designer who entered the market of bike sharing and bike parking about 15 years ago. And since 15 years, this world of bike sharing has changed. First, we had ordinary bikes, which we put on in docks using ordinary locks. We had to explain people how to unlock a bike, and we had even to teach people how to cycle. The last 10 years, we had the introduction of smart locks, so we can track and trace bicycles. We can easily unlock them. And we had the introduction of e-bikes, which opened a huge market for countries where people had to learn to ride a bike and where it might be hilly. All this led to the development of a bike sharing system with induction charging. And yeah, I would like to be involved in all this because one of the main topics we have in our company is first, everything we design is circular designed, so good for the environment. And of course, cycling is good for the environment. And second, one of our missions is we want to have a global system and local business. So instead of coming over to Colombia and say, okay, let's run our business in Colombia, we prefer to bring in technology and bring in parts of systems so people locally can use these parts, run their own business, and by running their own business, people will be involved. They will have their own products. They can repair their own products. They can do the operations. And last but not least, they can make money themselves with these products. So the turnover stays in the area. So this is what I would like to add to this project. And I don't want to go too much in detail because otherwise I might be talking for half an hour.
Thank you, Ton. Do you also have, I think, of course, we really like the initiative and also the way I think you could combine with several of the other participants and let's look for synergies there. From your side, after hearing Martijn or Natalia or Lina, is there a specific, do you also have a specific question that you would like us to answer?
With many of the webinars we joined in foreign countries, there are a lot of opportunities. So the main thing is get in touch with the right people and cooperate, because these days you can't run a project with only one company. It's teamwork and people have to respect each other and cooperate. So my main question is, how can we get in touch with a group of people that want to really start doing something in reality? Not on paper, but start with pilots, start with cycling, because the proof of the pudding, of the proof of cycling is riding the bike.
Perfect. I think you have joined the right session, Tom. That's a bit a conclusion, and I think it's a very nice conclusion also for today. I think we should do it together. Of course, if you look at the opportunities, they are quite integral, which means we would have to combine several types of expertise, Dutch expertise, but also working together with Colombian partners, as also Martijn mentioned. So I think that's something we should look for. And if I look at the group of people that are still here. I see Carolina Ramos is here. I see Jos Sluismans is here. I see, let's see, Maurits Lopez is here. I see Rob Hulleman is here. I see Robert van Hees is here. Ron van Duin is here. Ruben Loendersloot is here. And now I'm forgetting a lot more people that are here. They are actually part of the, you could say, the core group of interest in Colombia. Colombia is, of course, a country where projects take time, patience, everything Martijn mentioned, but we should do it together. And I think one of the great things we have been able to build, and I think also the enthusiasm of the embassy, in this case, of course, the enthusiasm of Natalia, of Lina, of our team, that has been of much help, because that means there is a group of people willing to work together to benefit from these opportunities. So I think for today, also looking at the time, I think this is a very nice conclusion. For now, we're going to share the study with all of you. We want you to take a look at it. The study is an update. The study is an update also on the opportunities we see today, and we think we are connected to actually make benefit of those opportunities. Please all take a look at that. I know several of you will have new ideas, and that's what we want. We want to reconnect, we want to reactivate, but also we want to continue, but because many things have continued. I think for today, I would like to thank Lina, I would like to thank Natalia, Martijn for his great tips and tricks presentation, Nico for giving us the update on the RVO instruments. I would like to thank you all for sharing. I would like to invite the participants to take a look at the study that you will receive from us, and let's look for a moment in January to do a very interactive meeting to see how we continue from there. Thank you very much all for joining. From the Holland House, we hope to see you again very soon, at least virtually. And have a great evening for the people in the Netherlands. For the people elsewhere, have a great day. Thank you very much again, and hope to see you soon.